It's bad. Anime.
Just like Akano's daddy issues, we are back.
We're back and better than ever, baby. I'm Rob.
And I'm John. And this is Bad Anime, the show where we decide,
is this anime bad?
We're back for number 3, baby. Season 3.
We have made it to Season 3 of High School DXD. As I rambled incoherently in the Season 2 episode, I'm like, I just want to talk about Season 3. Can we just fucking get there already?
Yeah. And you know, you did talk a lot about Season 3 during our Season 2 episode, because Season 2 was like, it was like the Kiba show, baby. It was all about Kiba's storyline, his
Kiba's
plot
spotlight
arc.
was, almost front and center.
Spotlight was bright.
At least
Spotlight was
first
bright.
half of the season, I remember, like first 4
Yes.
or 5 episodes maybe. Kiba got the spotlight. But now this time, my girl Konako and Akano got some major screen time.
They got some shine on them. This season. And
Konako's a cat. Your hand is in your face.
It became so. Watching.
I wasn't expecting this much a response.
Watching this season, I'm sure at one point I said to myself, you know what this show is missing? A cat girl. And then they heard me, and now we have our cat girl. And she wasn't a cat girl for the first 2 seasons, but now she is a cat girl.
Well, you know what they did, right? They looked at their cast and said, well, we have to make them Meowst of this.
Oh. Well, in the meow time.
Yeah. All right.
No, they really
Meow,
did
before
select-
things get out of control, we need to get back on cat track.
Cat. We got to get
Meow,
back
this
on
is
our
gonna be an interesting
catwalk.
episode.
I mean path. I mean track. Here we go. No, but seriously, they kind of looked at their whole cast and was like, who is... I mean, they're cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. They looked at their whole cast and they were like, who is the most likely to be a cat girl? And honestly, I agree with their decision. I think Konako is most likely out of everybody to be a cat girl. She didn't have like her powers were okay. They didn't really have a lot going for them right then and there. So the fact that she got cat ears, I think it ups her stock a little bit in the grand scheme of things.
I think it was subtly implied the entire time, or they just realized it could be coincidence because Neko, the Japanese word for cat, is in her name.
Ah,
Neko.
that makes sense. That
so I'm
actually
just-
makes a lot of sense. The writing
so
was
that
on the
could've-
wall.
Yeah, it might have been. Who knows? Maybe there's more foreshadowing here that we missed in the earlier seasons. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I loved the beginning of the show where they took that train down to
To the underworld. Yes,
the underworld.
Wait, hold on. Because in this season, it opens up with the idea that Issei's house, because everybody has decided, all of the women in the occult research club are like, well, we gotta all live at Issei's house now. And so then
because none
Rias-
of them wants to lose any ground in the hunt for Issei's heart and balls.
Exactly. And the king of the underworld has granted them a lot of money and changed their house into a legitimate palace, to which Issei's parents are like, this is fine.
Yeah, they're like, cool. They're like, wow, this is Issei. You're really traded up here.
The house, early on in the show, and I've taken down a few quotes from this season as well that were my favorites.
Oh, you have to, yeah.
From early on in the first episode, this new house, the Issei family home, the Hyodo family home, is now described as a Tony Montana wet dream. So, the references were on fire this season.
Oh, yep. This season is, oh god, I don't even know where to start in terms of admiration for the season. But I'll let you take over for a little bit, so I just don't start gooing everywhere.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you wouldn't be the first. This season
they
had
gave
a lot
so
of
much screen time to so many characters. I mean, I've always talked about why Akano was my waifu in the series, and now we actually see her story.
Yes, and her daddy issues. We get full view of all of her daddy issues.
We get full view of her daddy issues.
Yes.
She goes on the date with Issei at one point, and it's the funniest goddamn thing when they're walking around, and Issei's like, He gets grumpy because he sees the rest of the girls crowded around a single light post, all of them wearing bad hats and sunglasses.
That was a really funny episode, yeah. I really like that one. And then, of course, like it all spirals out with like Akano telling him about the story, or like him learning about the story of like Akano's father and like how her mother got killed and how he wasn't there because he's a fallen angel.
She's part fallen angel, and that leads to a lot of discrimination.
Yeah, and she's like, nobody likes to see my black wings. Everybody hates them. And Issei's like, I kind of like them. And she's like, wow, let's fuck.
But to Issei's credit, though, he realizes that, she's acting out, partially in response to her trauma. So he could have easily taken advantage of the situation and been like, hey-yo. But he didn't do that.
Yes,
he was like,
very
no.
much like a good guy. And that is Issei's quality, I think. Very pervy, good guy, but by being a very pervy good guy, he is unknowingly brainwashing everybody.
Yes, that's what he's doing.
Slowly, unknowingly, brainwashing and manipulating all of the female characters in show to fall in love with him, and they all do, of course.
Yeah, and they all do, and we get, and that's what I love about the season. We have some people really coming forward. I think it was this season where Asuya finally just said like, yeah, maybe let me make this clear for you, stupid.
Yes. To which he responded, and that was pretty much it.
Fucking Asuya, like I have so much affection for her because she's so caught in the middle of everything. Because you have Rias, Akano, and then you have blue-haired girl.
Zenobia, yes.
Zenovia's in the bunch.
Who just wants to get pregnant? Yeah. Question mark? Question mark? That's her whole thing?
Yeah, she's
like,
breed.
I used to be a woman of God, but now I want to get babies.
Yeah, now she just wants, like, they make it very explicit that she wants to breed. There's a few other characters randomly kind of joining.
There are, because they kind of weirdly,
ranks.
in this season, join with the Nordic universe and have, like, their main villain is Loki. They have Odin kind of popping around. And they have this kind of, like, Norwegian god character that is, I don't know her name, but she's Odin's assistant that he consistently leaves behind, and it's very funny. Because she has to then kind of, like, pick it up, and she cries for, like, a few days. And also, Odin always makes sly remarks about how she can't get a man. And, God, it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, because she's like, the entire show, that character gets completely shit on. I remember watching this, because I watched this probably 3 years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember vividly watching this show and just feeling bad for her.
I know.
Like,
and she's the hottest one of the bunch. I don't know what's happening.
You think so?
I don't know. Maybe I threw that out there as like a big statement, but realistically, number 2 and number 3.
I mean, it's you can't rank them because it's impossible because
it's
wow.
Everybody's got their moments. Everybody's got their moments, And,
but then this show did the thing that drives the anime pervs insane because now people genuinely care about these characters, myself very much included. I'm just like, wow, I respect this character's struggle.
Right. At first it was like, oh, booby, want to touch, and now it's all
want to touch the hiney. How?
But I see now why you booby. Why booby?
I see
bad?
Why do boob?
Why do boob? Now I know.
So,
now I know why boob.
Now I know why yabos.
And early on, very early on, I believe it was in the first episode of this season, Issei, which I find hilarious, has Issei and Azazel, like their new kind of headmaster kind of guy. Yeah. The guy with like the hair and like
I love
you know
Azazel.
what I mean? The highlights
love
and stuff.
Azazel.
He's so funny. And I feel like him and Issei have this weird relationship where I'm kind of digging it, where Issei's like, yeah, Azazel, I just want to like touch boobies all day. I want to harem. Like, that's my life. And Azazel's like, well, here's the thing, Issei. Have you ever touched a boob? And Issei's like, obviously. And he's like, well, have you ever poked the nipple? And Issei's like, excuse me?
Oh, yeah, that's this season too.
Drops off this weird knowledge to him that if he just pokes a titty like inside, he's like, yeah, and your whole finger gets surrounded by cleavage. It's the best. And Issei's like, you're the smartest man I've ever met. that was genuinely great. And of course, Issei does that in a fight and just does his balance breaker or whatever the fuck and just goes like 5th gear and kicks ass. So it's very funny how they have these weird like pervy tropes that keep coming up, and Issei's like, the only way I can save all of us is if I dig my finger inside your nipple.
And Rias is like, fine.
Yeah, like, fine, go do it.
Because every other character's like, okay. And she's like, no, damn it.
We have to do this. I'm bouncing around here, but there was a great quote during like the Akano stuff with like I think it was early on when Akano and Issei were like getting kind of close. Akano says to Issei, "I thought we could get more intimate, Issei." And Issei in his brain says, "That can only mean two things, and I don't own an X-ray machine, so it can only mean."
What?
Excuse me? I don't own an X-ray machine. Oh God! This season like really popped off with like the. It was just so funny.
That line is great. So... I don't own X-ray machines, so it can only mean one other thing. What?
They really, this show also kind of really became self-aware in a lot of ways. More than it was in this season. Like, for example, like there was a scene where like they were all leaving to go to school one day because they actually went to school. Kind of after the whole first Underworld situation, there was a scene where they went to school, and Issei was like freaking out or something. I don't know what was happening. Right. I think it was when Asuya was getting courted by that other guy, who turned out to be a bad guy. Who I forget his name, but it was something.
I kind of forget that plot point, honestly. Yeah,
it was this like weird guy who was kind of like courting her, like as part of his like devil group, and he wanted her as like his bishop and wanted to be her wife or something like that too.
Yeah,
but it was around that time, and Issei was like, "You can't marry this guy. Like, I'm so pissed off that you're even thinking about marrying this guy." Now she's like, "I'm not gonna marry him." And then
exactly. What are you talking about?
When they're about to leave for school, Rias is like, "All right, guys, let's leave for school." And Issei's still freaking out, and Rias says to him, "Issei, don't worry. You could still emotionally manipulate Asuya on the way to school." I'm like, "Wow, it is so." Wow. They know. They just know. They know. They know.
They've caught on.
They caught on. They caught on. You can still emotionally manipulate Asuya on the way to school. All right, let's go.
Yikes.
Yeesh.
But it coincides, the show getting more self-aware, but so it got more comedic, but at the same time, it also got darker.
It did. It did in a lot of cases.
There were some very dark moments. The whole ending thing when Asuya gets kidnapped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Wow, that got dark.
Yeah, because she gets kidnapped by that dude who wanted to marry her, and they were supposed to engage in a raiding game with that guy's team. And Issei was like, "All right, I'm going to kick this guy's ass." But it turns out that it didn't become a raiding game because they had broken some sort of ethics or rules, or they were now evil or aligned with Loki or something. And all hell breaks loose. And essentially, they got to save Asuya from this guy.
It gave me the same vibe as the Mortal Kombat games where Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung keep breaking the rules to Mortal Kombat, how the tournament's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So then our cast is now in a different environment, different situation that's against the grain of the rules. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of those vibes there, which I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It made a lot of sense too. And they had a lot of. During that, there was a lot of like action this season as well. There was quite a lot,
and I gotta say the action looked and felt very fun.
It did. It did feel very fun.
Akano was going crazy with the lightning powers in some moments, which I loved.
Yes.
Zenobia as a swordsman, super fun to watch. I loved her. Her and Kiba as knights. Yeah. They were just kicking ass.
Yeah, they were doing great. They were doing really. It was
genuinely cool to see.
It was. Everybody kind of came into their own because Konako had her now like cat ears. So she could be like do all cat stuff, and
so she had that flexibility and agility with her strength.
Yep, and Issei, of course, kind of dialed into the Red Dragon.
More and more consumed by the Red Dragon, which I love.
Exactly, and he can like go like full Power Ranger anytime now. It seems like he's been kicking ass.
I love it
and stuff, which is really sick. So yeah, I don't know. It was a great season in terms of like you just have everybody and their thing, and everybody's fighting. Everybody has their moments. All the characters kind of contribute to everything across the board this season. And it did focus a lot on Konako at the beginning, and then kind of at the end it shifts to like the Issei Rias relationship, because
at the very end,
it was noted that Rias was like really, really jealous of Asuya, it seems, because she was getting a lot of time with Issei and stuff, and she was like
jealous of her and Akano. It felt like there was a jealousy towards Akano as well.
Yeah, that too. So it was very interesting how it kind of ebbed and flowed between these different conflicts internally. And of course, like the battle scenes were great, but my favorite were honestly, as I've said multiple times in this, in talking about High School DXD over the years, the big plot points, like the stuff with like the angels, the devils, the fallen angels, whatever. It's mostly like the in-between stuff about like them being characters and them having their lives. I find much more compelling
their interpersonal
than like the
dynamics.
big fight scenes. Exactly. The dynamics are what makes the show.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been endeared by characters who can consistently make me laugh until suddenly things get very serious. Mm-hmm. So when Asya gets kidnapped and when they are under the impression she's dead, that cool mental breakdown Issei has?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean, Issei? But no, he loses his mind. Legitimately loses it because, like, he thinks he let her down. He thinks she's dead. And he has, like, a kind of a psychotic break and then goes full gear and starts, like, just destroying shit. It's like, oh my god, he goes on a rampage.
Full, like, rage mode. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just really cool to see how much truly and genuinely Issei cares about these girls. And I'm like, so like I love I always love the juxtapositions that were super comedic and the next thing you know it gets super dark. It's like, wait, there was like yabos talked about 4 minutes ago, all these different synonyms for tatas, and next thing you know you see the same character having a mental breakdown because one of the girls he loves is presumably dead, and it's like, this show. And then but the not question, but I'll never forget the statement I said to myself, because I think I probably watched this over the course of 2 or 3 days during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, wow, I'm genuinely invested. Not really laughing for the comedy. And again, like the plot points with the devils and stuff, to your point, I completely understand that and agree to a certain extent. I'm like, cool. All you had to do was say angels, fallen angels, and devils, and I got it.
Yeah, it's just like it gets crissy-crossy at points, and I'm like, it's I like the Norse stuff this season because they added it in. It just spiced things up a little bit. It was like, oh, okay, that's new, like that's fun. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, but it's those overarching plots that don't really matter as much. It's really like it's the more personal dynamics here, and just seeing how all the characters respond to each other, and how Kiba can very easily join Issei's harem if he wanted him to. Yes, he and
could.
I think you're kind of sad it doesn't happen.
I'm very sad. God.
Oh my god. But there's sometimes the homoerotic tension between Kiba and Issei gets a nod and a wink. It never goes full blown, but there are some nods and winks where Kiba's like, Issei, I'd do anything for you, anything. And Issei's like, well, slow down, partner.
Yeah, well, slow down, buddy. Ho ho. Woo.
But then this season is gonna. It's actually the start of a major shift in the production of the anime because post Issei's psychotic breakdown and then like getting him back to like consciousness, being like, hey, Asi is alive, we're good, you're good, and then there's like the episode or two after that where like Rias kind of has like a edgelord moment where she's like, fuck this, fuck everything, I've lost Issei cares about them more than me.
Yes,
those episodes were anime original. They deviated from the source. The thing is, and I've read the first light novel, most of it before I put it down. Like I kind of said this sucks because the tone is way different in the light novels.
Really?
Where this show tries to be a fun, sexy action adventure romp with a lot of comedy. Mm-hmm. The novels feel a lot more cutesy in aspects. Like I said, in the original light novels, Rias has the fang, like the one girl spunky anime fang.
Yes,
that tells you a lot without telling you a lot.
Yeah, it really does. Mm-hmm.
The tone is way more cutesy. The comedy is not nearly as strong in the novels, and it's a very different feeling show. It feels like, to use the term moe, it feels a lot more moe than its anime counterpart. So the anime, it felt like it wanted to make it a little cooler and sexier. And still have the great comedy in there.
Right.
And they wanted to keep doing their own thing. So hence why in the next season, it's a different studio working out the next season. The art style is different. And they actually have an episode 0 for that season. It's 13 episodes. And the episode 0 is just them retelling the last couple episodes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Just recapping and stuff.
Well, and changing shit around. To make it coincide more with the light novels, and also because the light novel author said I wanted it to match my original tone more, and that's why I've said season 4 is where the show changes a lot, and I already spoiled this on previous episodes where it took me out of the show.
Really? So it changes a lot as far as your personal opinion is concerned, in a negative direction.
Yes. And I thought, because I genuinely think the source material is not as good a version of the story as the adaptation. I think the adaptation
as the anime. I see.
Well, I prefer the adaptation a lot more because it's definitely feels more adult.
I will say that if they did insert a few episodes here that were not kind of related to the light novel or like based on the source material, I honestly think they did a pretty good job with it, because I sure as hell did not notice.
Exactly, and that's the thing, because they strayed from light novels most of the time, is what I'm trying to say, but it's the first time they really strayed by doing their own story. And I really love the show when it strayed from the light novels and really kind of adapted things. That's what you have to do in adaptation. You make things your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this marks a big shift for me, and that also leads, I think, to a lot of my positivity on the season 3. Because not only did everyone have a lot of comedic time to shine, but I was invested in the story. I really dug the action scenes, because a lot of anime action scenes sometimes my eyes kind of roll over. This one never did, because they were creative and fun and flashy.
Yes, they were also kind of different every time.
Yes, isn't that really fucking cool?
Which was nice. It wasn't, because sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it is like most of them do end with Issei just beating the fuck out of somebody. But how he gets there is different every time.
Is different.
Yes.
It reminds me of a show like Ava, where the action scenes are always kind of different. You know what I mean? Even if the end, Shinji was going to beat the angel, but
it's a different strategy, right? Like how
the routes were always different to get there. Exactly.
Do you touch boobs? Do you squeeze a butt this time? Like, there's just such a variety of ways that you could accomplish this feat.
Because he's a true man who's connected to all of us. He's connected to all of us, man, and I support Issei Hyodo for president of this goddamn United States of America. We'll get him a car just fine.
Yeah, we should.
Issei for president, y'all.
No, that's a good point though. All the fights did feel kind of like refreshing and different, and even like, I don't know, the fights were like, as we mentioned before, like Kiba and Zenobia, like as swords people, like their fights were really cool, and like Akino's like lightning stuff was really cool this season. And because you had some more emotional weight behind her character this season, I think her attacks felt more like pointed. They felt more that they had more direction. They had kind of like a why that I thought was kind of missing before. And
one of the scenes I will never forget is when they're all like having a fight scene. So I forgot who gives Issei the phone, and they hand it to Akino, and they tell Issei, say this, and he says, Akino, if we pull through this battle, I'll go on a date with you. And then it cuts back to Issei, and I forgot who other character was. It wasn't Rias, it was someone else by his side, and Issei was like, that's not gonna work. In the distance, you see this huge blast of lightning, a tornado of lightning, and Akino standing there giggling to herself like an idiot.
He's like, woohoo, dates!
Yeah, she's literally giggling to herself, cackling. And of course, Rias is pissed that Issei offered to take her on the date, which led to that hysterical scene we talked about earlier. And just, I love that attention to detail. Where
it was Akino, very fun attention to detail.
Her power is getting increased exponentially, just the prospect of going on a date with Issei. And that scene still stuck with me. I used to because I have the Blu-ray for this, I would rewind that scene and rewatch it 2 or 3 times, because I thought it was so goddamn funny.
That's so great. And kind of to build on that idea of like Rias's jealousy, at the end, like the whole sequence was like, Issei like went crazy, had that psychotic break, and then Rias kind of gets into her own, maybe in those 2 episodes that you talked about, gets into kind of like her own thing where she's like thinking that she's maybe not enough or like not good enough or things like that. And which makes her easy target for brainwashing. Which apparently Loki, before they beat him, put like some sort of curse on like Issei and or Rias that kind of brought out these specific qualities in them.
And there's like a duplicate Issei, like,
and there's a second Issei that Loki created to like usher out Rias and like
into a doppelganger,
and bring her to. I forget the name of it, but it's called like the Void or like
this like other dimensional plane. I forget what it was called.
Dimensional plane. I think it might have been something closer to that.
Really?
Actually.
Cool.
Yeah, some interdimensional plane or something like that.
I don't remember what the
Either
actual.
Way, we're there twice this season. Once because they throw Asya in there and they have to find, and then they have to find Asya, and then number 2 because Rias is in there now. They gotta go get Rias. So we're in there a few times. We become quite familiar with it this season. And they're going to get Rias, and Rias obviously has been cursed and turns on everybody and like is attacking everybody, so they have to like beat Rias essentially or kind of calm her down.
Which is a really cool dynamic. It's like, how do we take her down? And also
Right.
they're not trying to kill her, so it's like, oh,
Exactly.
well, what do we do here? That's a very cool device.
Yeah, and it was really cool.
And then eventually, like, we get some very cool scenes of Issei finally breaking through to Rias, and then her realizing that he's the real Issei after all. They're like, I think they're like nude on a beach or something that looks like a beach.
Yeah, they have like this interesting beach scene that sends me back to, believe it or not, Akame ga Kill, where they're talking on a beach.
It sent me back to Infinite Stratos where they did the same thing.
Or Infinite Stratos, yeah, very similar. Or Evangelion, no, not that one, not that one.
That one was different.
Not that one on the beach. That was different.
That was a little different.
A little different, that one. But this time, and we get kind of this notion that, so they get back to the real world eventually, but Issei doesn't remember them being on that beach. And during that time they were on the beach, I believe Rias whispers something to him that is inaudible.
Yeah.
And Issei doesn't remember. I mean, obviously it's probably something about how she loves him or something. But,
exactly. That's a very clear implication.
Yeah. And Rias is like, that's okay. It'll be my little secret. Haha.
Yeah, which is cute, that's as cute as a show should get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a moment that they share that she will remember, he won't, but she will value for a long time. So, yeah, it's nice.
It was really nice stuff. It was
Was
a
this
nice
your
way
favorite season of High School DXD?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think it also was mine. It's hard because I did like the second season a lot. Maybe this one and the first season are kind of competing for me, but this one this one had the weight of knowing all the characters and seeing all the stuff that they've gone through already and having that information. So probably was the best, but man, the first season was still pretty stellar, and the second too.
Well, for me, it's actually pretty simple of how I rank these things. Season 3 is my favorite, while 1 and 2 are kind of tied for me because 1 and 2 kind of feel like, in my head, they do a lot of the same things that they do great. They do the same. So I have trouble distinguishing seasons 1 and 2 sometimes because it flows a little more seamlessly. Because 3 seems like the real escalation of a lot. Like, really, 3 seems like the next part of the story, while 1 and 2 feel like the same story, if that makes any sense. Right. Season 3 is where things picked up, for lack of a better term.
Things did pick up quite a lot.
In my mind.
Yeah,
in my mind.
I agree. I think it also, helps that you've known these characters for a few seasons and you're like, okay, great. Here we are. Like, this is like the peak of narrative in the show.
Yes. And, we're so endeared because of all the comedy and all, learning their backstories and how much these people have made us laugh over the past 3 seasons. We've grown so attached to them because, we, at least in my brain, I associate them with so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's such a shame that the 4th season didn't make you feel the same way.
No. And I would love to cover it for the podcast.
Did you watch the whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, I'm interested in that because, a lot of shows have that kind of weird drop-off later in it. Like, have you ever seen Community? Like, first 3 seasons, spectacular television. 4th season, a little weird. 5th season, the hell was that? And the 6th season, they kind of stuck the landing a little bit.
Gotcha.
But I'm interested with are there only 4 seasons out currently? Well,
right now there's only 4 seasons out. Season 5 has been rumored for a long time. I'm going to Google this right now live, and we're leaving all this on air. I don't care if it's dead air.
I don't care. I mean, yeah.
I don't care. Whatever. Season 5. They say it's currently in development. So, yeah. I think COVID delayed the... Yeah, it looks like COVID delayed it pretty wildly. Speculations are in 2024.
2024. Okay, well.
Yeah, so we'll see when it actually happens, if it honestly does.
Looks like season 4 came out in 2018.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been a little bit. I can understand pandemic delays and stuff like that, but yeah,
of course,
it's been quite a bit.
But to get back to season 3, yeah, this is definitely my favorite of the bunch, and obviously it's not bad to get back to the point of our program. It's not a bad season of anime. I think it's a very good season. It's a tremendous payoff. And one of the points I kind of left lingering, so I want to tie that back up real quick.
Yeah, sure.
I definitely my feelings of season 3 are certainly heightened because of season 4, and some of the retcons of season 4 made me very angry, and it highlighted my appreciation for season 3 more because of that. So there's definitely a little bias going on here that I kind of have to acknowledge.
Sure. No, I understand that. It's like the show got to a point that it was so good, and then it dropped off in your eyes to a point that, wasn't so great. So obviously you're going to remember the fond memories you had with the previous part of it. That was the glory days, I guess,
Exactly. And now,
you're right.
Talking about season 4 is making me mad.
I did do a quick Google, and I am seeing like all the posts that I'm seeing are like on Reddit. So I binged all 4 seasons of High School DXD the last few days, and I loved it up until the 4th season. What happened? So like, it seems like it's a very clear break and drop off and enjoyment to the 4th season. Because, the reason that I suggested we do this episode, I mean, we're going to do it anyways, but one of our viewers reached out and he was like, hey, would love for you to do DXD season 3. It's spectacular. So we're doing that. Merry Christmas. But
Merry Christmas.
I guess we're also going to have to eventually talk about the 4th season because it seems kind of like a bit of a hot button issue.
Yeah, and I'll actually have to rewatch a lot of season 4 because very little of it was committed to my memory. I was agitated most of the time consuming it, so I'll have to rewatch this. Because, for example, I told you before we went on air, I didn't even do any plot synopsis or reread of anything high school for season 3 because I just spoke from the heart and was able to remember
it well. You knew it.
I was able to remember quite a bit off the cuff, especially for a show I watched 3 years ago.
Yeah, you really were. Actually, I watched this 2 weeks ago, and even I was like, I don't know, some shit with angels. Some
shit happened, I don't know. But this for me, currently, this is the peak of High School DXD as a franchise.
Wow.
I enjoyed the crap out of it. It led me to season 4, where my opinions shifted a bit.
That is unfortunate, but now we got to cover it. I mean, I'm curious.
Now we got to cover it, and
I'm very curious.
But season 4, like I said, season 4 didn't destroy my appreciation of the 3 previous seasons. If anything, it made my appreciation of the first 3 seasons that more intense. Like I said earlier,
right?
So, cheers to the first 3 seasons of High School DxD for being good.
Yes, cheers. It was a great season. Also, probably my favorite thus far of High School DxD, and. We will see where season 4 takes us.
We shall see. Everyone enjoy the good times while you can.
While you can. Oh, God, that's so morbid. I love it.
Me too.
It's bad.
That's right, everybody. The fun is over today. Thanks so much for clicking on the episode. But the fun does not have to stop here. You can hit us up anywhere that you can find us on Instagram or TikTok at badanimepod, or you can even email us to get in touch with us directly at badanimepod@gmail.com if you got any opinions or just want to send some hate mail or love mail. We'll take both. We don't care. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, and have a great day.
Simple Equations Podcast Network.